I know this group. I know you all could talk the rest of the Sunday school time, so I'm going to call it short. And I'm calling this Bring Your Brains to Church Sunday. Bishop Ed Sawyer always used to say that the door of the church ought never be so low that you have to leave your brains outside. And the Lord said, or rather He asked someone, what is the greatest commandment? And the person responded, you can say it with me, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind. We mustn't leave that off, and the church often has. I'm going to play a game with you now. You getting ahead? Okay. Well, I don't make a very good Vanna White, but one of the things is nature abhors a vacuum, and our minds seem to be set to abhor a vacuum too. We don't like blanks that we don't like to know that we don't know. So we like to fill those things in. So if you were to guess, I already heard one. To fill in the letters, what would that say? What phrase would fill that in? Fill in the blanks. There's a lot of blanks in the Bible people have filled in. But, okay, there you go. You were right. Fill in the blanks. But, those blanks could equally be fill up the bottle. Could also be fall on the bottom. I couldn't come up with any other words beginning with D, but you get the idea. You may not be right about how you fill the blanks in. And the Bible is filled with stuff that is not clear or isn't specified. And Moravians have always said, well, if the Bible doesn't make it clear, we're going to leave that up to the individual believer to make up their own minds about it. We're not going to create doctrine about that. And one of the things from my other life, my movie-making life, that I think a lot about is that when you make a movie, you have to fill in all the blanks. The movie director has to make every decision. And I want to ask you, I know you all had this experience. Who's that? No, it's not. It's Daniel Radcliffe, an actor who portrays Harry Potter. How many of you have had the experience, first, of reading a great book and then going to see the movie, and you were disappointed in the movie? Yeah. Because the movie wasn't as good as your imagination when you were reading the book. Now, how many of you had the reverse experience we have more and more these days, that you went to see the movie and then you read the book? And somehow when you read the book, if you saw Harry Potter in the theater first and you read the book, Harry Potter looks like Daniel Radcliffe in your imagination, because the blanks have been filled in. When you create a movie, the director, and this is the great Sidney Lumet, who died this year, he would often talk about, you have to decide everything. You have to decide what color clothes the actor is going to wear, what style of clothes, what color hair the person has, what hairstyle they have. You have to decide what color the room is, what stuff is in the room. You have to decide every detail to make a movie. Now, when you read a book, all those details aren't described, and you fill them in with your mind. Now, what you fill in your mind isn't necessarily what the author had in mind when they were writing it. It's you're creating it. But that's our mind filling in the blanks. Now, the problem is, when I talk about seeing the movie first, it's very, very hard to go back to the book and read the book then without the movie details in your head. And that's what happens to us with the Bible. I'm hoping that all our classes can talk about this some more going on. How does the stuff you've been told over the years affect how you read the Bible today? Are you reading the Bible with fresh eyes, or are you bringing this whole set of interpretations that people have handed you over the years to the Bible? 2,000 years of people filling in the blanks. It's pretty hard. It requires us to work to read the Bible with fresh eyes. Now, an example of this, a movie I saw once and I don't ever want to see again. The Passion of the Christ. This was a really interesting experience for me. talking to other Christian filmmakers at conventions about this movie, because of course they were all fascinated with it, number one because it made a lot of money, but number two, most of them saw it and were just inspired by it. I was not inspired by it. And I had some real interesting conversations along the lines of the movie plants images in your mind that you then go back to the Bible and read. And these Christian filmmakers are people who make these decisions, and they should have a better understanding of this process. I was out in Denver at a convention having dinner with a group of Christian filmmakers. They were talking about this movie, and we were talking about the portrayal of Pilate in this movie. And I said, that's not in the Bible. And I had a lady that said to me, well, you know, I didn't think it was in the Bible either, but after I saw the movie, I went back and read in the book of John, and it is there. I said, no, it's not. You've now had that implant, that suggestion put in your head, and now you're reading the book of John with those glasses on. The Passion of the Christ did not start off with the Bible. They didn't go back to the Bible at all for the script. It is based on a mystical vision by a 19th century nun called The Dolorous Passion of Our Lord Jesus Christ. Every detail of that movie is out of this lady's vision, not from the Bible. Okay, so we have this nun who was sick and had brainstorms and visions dictating how a lot of Christians today are reading the Bible. What's actually in the Bible? When I read something and I'm preparing for a lesson, I'm asking the question, what is actually here? What does this really, really say? Versus what's the embroidery that has been added on later by well-meaning believers? Now, one of the things that happened very early on, and I don't want to get off on this too much, but in the 2nd century, when they were looking at the books to put in the Bible, and this is very early in the history of the church, one of the things that they very clearly rejected was a movement called Gnosticism, which is not something you may know anything about. It comes from the Greek word gnosis, which means to know, and it was basically a Greek mystery religion that had put on Christian trappings and had written some gospels of their own and so on. When you hear about the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of Judas, these are Gnostic texts. But the church rejected this very early on. And one of the things that they rejected, a component of Gnosticism that they rejected, was the idea that there were secret messages in the Bible. That somehow there was a secret code in there for only the initiated to understand. And the church said very early on, the message of the Bible is clear, and it is not set up in code only for special people. So that has been rejected from the earliest days of the church, and yet now we've got another resurgence of this idea coming along.